It is no longer news that genetically modified foods pose potential health and environmental risks to human society. But the big question is how many people are informed about this, and how many are bold enough to stand against this evil agenda.
Watch this special documentary and be informed.
Chemicals we use in agriculture, industrial agriculture, are pesticides, insecticides. Their origins come from Hitler's labs. Chemicals made to kill people in concentration camps are the same chemicals that are being used now. After the wars, they tried to shift some of the chemicals to the Third World in the name of the Green Revolution.
You've heard of lab-grown meat, but what about lab-grown fruit? New Zealand scientists at Plant and Food Research are looking at how to produce fruit without a tree, vine or bush.
Plant and Food Research is working with cells from a range of fruits, including cherries, peaches and apples. Scientists say among the benefits could be reducing the environmental impact of food production and being able to feed future populations in urban cities.
We need to change cows, just cows alone.
How are we going to do that?
To make what's called artificial meat.
Artificial meat, they are creating the meat with chemicals. Some have said it was very nice. They ate it and said it was very nice.
This plant-based meat is not only amazingly delicious, but it's also better for you and better for the planet.
My mind is blown right now. Like, the texture is perfect. The juiciness is there. Like, it's chicken. It's chicken. The stringiness, it's pulling apart. It totally mimics the real thing. And I would buy this. I would eat this. I'm eating it now.
We make meat without killing a cow.
Why are people making it?
Climate change.
It's better for the environment.
The environment.
It seems as though that the mission statement behind all of this is, hey, we're going to give you the taste of meat, but it's better for you and it's better for the planet.
They think that God was a fool for saying, go into the world and multiply. He didn't know he needed more oxygen.
Genetic engineering is a process where scientists take genes from one species and force it into the DNA of other species.
It refers to crops that have had their genes specifically altered to express a certain trait. In very simple terms, this means taking a certain gene from one organism, like repelling insects, and transferring that trait into a plant's DNA sequence so that the plant expresses an insect-repelling trait as it grows. It uses specific genes from one organism to modify the genetic code of another. You know exactly what trait will be expressed.
In 2001, a small California biotech company called Epicite patented a gene, which causes both men and women who eat it, in the form of any product, to produce antibodies to sperm. If the men eat the Epicite gene, they produce antibodies to their own sperm, rendering them irreversibly sterile. If women eat the Epicite gene, when they have intercourse, their bodies produce antibodies to the sperm that has been deposited, and they become infertile through the destruction of the sperm. Now, DuPont and Monsanto formed a joint venture, purchased the Epicite firm, and, quote, commercialized the Epicite gene. Do you want to know if the food that you're eating contains the Epicite gene? Sure you do. How about the food that your children are eating, or your grandchildren? Sure you do.
Think about what's going on today, where organizations like the United Nations, sadly, carrying out a so-called food program for food security and actually creating shortages. And the whole thing is about creating an artificial shortage of food. And so while they are causing the shortage of food, they're announcing to us that there's likely to be shortage.
With regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real.
One of the ways by which they seek to frustrate and destroy food supply across the world is by creating genetically modified food and seedlings, such that farmers lose the right to grow their food independently.
Governments are signing horrible bills into law, like plant breeders' rights. I don't know if you understand what that means. It actually means that the plant breeders have rights to create hybrids. And when they create these hybrids, when you purchase the hybrids to produce your crops, they will not reproduce for you. They can't reproduce after that. And you have no right to try to make them reproduce, except because now they have patents to those hybrids. So you need another permission from them before you can use any of that. Think about it. These things that were naturally growing, these things that you could have and plant in your own garden, now they tell you you have no right to do that. And they're coming up with laws to make it difficult for farmers everywhere. Farmers are having difficulties in many countries. Laws and laws and laws prohibiting them from doing their work in the right way. A lot of farmers have been thrown into prison.
Farmers have been saving seed for thousands of years. However, Monsanto's patent on GE Roundup Ready soy has made this illegal. Farmers are now locked into buying new seed every year. Mo Parr is a seed cleaner from Indiana in the United States. In February 2007, Monsanto initiated a lawsuit against him. Monsanto claimed that Mo had assisted and encouraged GE soybean farmers to save their seed.
And I was accused of aiding, abetting, encouraging, and enticing the farmer in breaking the patent law.
Mo couldn't afford the legal fees for a proper trial, so he was forced to settle out of court.
However, Monsanto really doesn't care that you win the case, because as soon as you win the case, they're going on to the next court.
Despite being innocent of the charges, Mo had to spend a hefty sum of money to defend himself against Monsanto.
And if we go to the Supreme Court, it's possible that it could cost up to $1 million. However, if you won, what would you have won? It cost you almost $2 million to defend yourself. So would it really be a victory?
As part of his settlement, Mo has to have the seed he cleans for farmers tested for GE contamination. He then has to forward the results to Monsanto. Mo's customers who grow soy are now scared to save seed, and he has lost most of his soy seed cleaning business.
I probably lost 90% of my business, maybe 95% of my business. There are still some farmers, though, who are using my services because they are not planting genetically modified soybeans. And many farmers are saying, Mo, where can I buy non-genetically modified seed? Because I want to get away from these people. I've had it. They are trying to control my life, and I want out of their clutch.
Now you have a fruit that you can never reproduce. It's got no seed. What's happening? When you want that fruit ever in your life, you're going to have to depend on those who are supplying you. You can never grow any by yourself. It's got no seed. In fact, for some of them that have seeds, they've been genetically modified. When you sow them, it depends on the grades. You have those that you cannot plant. You can only eat them. Then you have those that can only reproduce once, even though they were supposed to be reproductive all the time. Only once. So the farmer is given, according to what he has paid, is given the seeds that can reproduce only once. After the first harvest, he can't have any more until he comes back again for renewal. Then he has the one that can give him guarantee for 5 times. Reproduce only 5 times. After that, it's dead, no matter what you do.
The use of GM in agriculture is a risk that is simply not worth taking.
Every single independent study conducted on the impact of genetically modified food shows that it damages organs, it causes infertility, it causes immune system failure, it causes holes in the GI tract, it causes multiple organ system failure.
The whole concept of genetically modified organisms is throwing a monkey wrench in the life on this planet.
Basically, they've taken agriculture and built an industrial model which doesn't fit nature. So instead of changing their agricultural model to accommodate what is natural, they're changing nature to accommodate the industrial model.
When they came out with genetically modified tomatoes, which is one of the first genetically modified foods, the rats who ate it, well, first of all, they wouldn't eat it unless it was the only thing, and even then they had to tube feed these rats, and 7 of 40 of them died. Nevertheless, it was initially approved for human consumption. This is the challenge we're having. BT corn, same problem. Chicken who ate BT corn were dying twice as fast as those who ate regular corn. So how do they modify these genes anyway? What's this got to do with, a problem in our health? They actually blast genetic material from a different species into the genes of the corn or soy or whatever they're working on. And what really distressed me the most was to learn that actually, I've known this, at the cellular organism position, take bacteria in our gut. Now we have billions, if not trillions, of bacteria in our intestinal tract. These single-celled organisms can transfer genetic material. This is something that happens all the time. So they've found that some of the bacteria that can be in your gut, because you eat this food that has these genetically modified genes, for example, to, in some cases, manufacture your own pesticide. The bacteria in your gut can now get that ability to manufacture pesticide. That's just, horrifying to think that you can actually make pesticides in your gut. We wonder why we're having problems that relate to brain and psychiatric issues and focus issues and learning and developmental, on and on and on. The immune system, huge effects from having genetically modified food in your diet.
They're going to tell you what food to eat, which will be produced by a few of them. They are creating artificial meat already. They are creating the meat with chemicals. It's part of the green revolution, green energy. So they'll create fish for you, create meat for you. So they say no more eating of chicken. Why? Because you see, they're running out of beef. And we have organic beef all over Africa. You think they like it? Oh, sure they don't.
Well, I just published a peer-reviewed article where 3,256 people report improvements in 28 different conditions when they switch to non-GMO and organic diets. I speak at medical conferences regularly, and there's thousands of doctors prescribing non-GMO diets, and they're reporting the same improvements. Now, it's interesting that the areas that people report improvements from are also getting better in pets and livestock put on non-GMO feed. There are also the problems that afflict the animals in laboratories that are exposed to GMOs and Roundup. And they're the same diseases on the rise in the US population, rising in parallel with the increased use of GMOs and the Roundup sprayed on them. 85% of the people who said they got better from something got better from digestive disorders. The next was fatigue, then obesity, then brain fog, then anxiety and depression. And if you look at the modes of action of Roundup and glyphosate, you would predict these type of changes.
Despite the several voices warning about the potential health and environmental risks associated with genetically modified food, they have become increasingly common in the food supply. Many processed foods contain ingredients derived from genetically modified crops, such as corn, soybeans, and sugar beets. It is estimated that up to 80% of packaged foods in the United States contain GMO.
This is not about carbon emission. It's about trying to have a monopoly on science for another super control so that you can determine
Who gets to eat food?
Cows and other grass-eating species have a digestion system that emits methane. And methane is a very powerful greenhouse gas. And so cows alone account for about 6% of global emissions. And so we need to change cows. The one that has gone better than I would have expected 5 years ago is this work to make what's called artificial meat. And so you have people like Impossible or Beyond Meat, both of which I invested in.
You eat it as well, and you like it?
Absolutely.
You do?
You can go to Burger King and buy the Impossible Burger.
All right, is it healthier for you or just healthier for the atmosphere?
It's slightly healthier for you.
Mr. Gates wants to change everything in order to have just a few commodity crops to then feed artificial food. Let's come back to this book. So Mr. Gates is the one who's really pushing lab food. And since food is the cycle of life, and we now know most chronic diseases are caused because we didn't take care of the quality of the food, and we allowed our gut microbiome to be attacked. You know, every sensible doctor is talking about the gut microbiome. You can't cheat 100 trillion of our fellow beings. And new data is coming out to show that chemically grown food has lost 70 to 80% of its nutrition. It's nutritionally empty mass. It's not food anymore.
Lab-grown meat is chock full of antibiotics, cancer cells, and a bunch of other terrible things they don't want you to know about. But why would they tell the truth when there's billions of dollars flowing into this arena?
President Biden signed an executive order this year requiring federal agencies to support cultivating alternative food sources.
And when there's billions upon billions more to be made.
Meat in here.
Yes.
But I don't see any animals and I don't see any animal parts.
Well, that's the trick, right? These are the tissue production cultivators. We invented this sort of technology in order to grow tissue.
Is it safe?
Absolutely.
To make a delectable lab-grown meat nugget, you'll need a few very special ingredients. Number 1, growth factors. Things like sugar, amino acids, vitamins, and trace elements to give the meat everything it needs to grow. And you'll, of course, extract these factors from the cheapest food imaginable, soy.
And so they're going to need things like soybean hydrolysate to provide amino acids. And where do we get soybean hydrolysate from? Well, you get it from soybeans. And how do you get soybeans? Well, you plant these giant monocrops. And what happens when you plant giant monocrops? Well, you decimate the whole ecosystem.
But the problem with soy is that it has more estrogen than any other bean in existence. No, seriously, 1 cup of soybeans has the equivalent amount of estrogen as 20,000 cups of chickpeas. If you don't know, estrogen is to females what testosterone is to males. Estrogen is what makes women, women. But when estrogen levels become too high, especially in males, it can lead to a whole lot of problems like infertility, low testosterone, slow growth, shrinking muscle mass, and weight gain. So yep, let's shove it into our lab-grown meat. And once your delicious soy plasma is complete, you'll need to add in your animal cells. Because remember, the goal here is to grow edible meat from just a few animal cells. But you can't just use any old regular cells from a chicken or a cow or whatever. That's because regular cells from a piece of animal meat, for example, just simply don't grow fast enough. Regular animal cells only multiply a few dozen times. So yeah, you're never gonna get your lab-grown meat factory going with cells like that. You need a type of cell that will grow to infinity super fast. And you want to know what cells multiply super fast? Cancer cells. Think about it. Tumors grow fast and get out of control, which is why cancer is so scary. But that also makes cancer cells the perfect catalyst for lab-grown meat. But obviously you're not gonna call them cancer cells because branding. Hello? Cancer has a bad ring to it. If people knew that the reason you can grow monstrous masses of meat so quickly was because you were using cancer cells, they would chuck their lab-grown meat right into the toilet. So you call them immortalized cells instead. These cells are immortal because they multiply infinitely, like a tumor. And immortalized cells sounds much better.
Pay close attention to what you're about to see. These rats have been fed with transgenic corn during their entire life cycle. The tumors they suffer from are enormous. The study that revealed the effect of the GMOs on the health of these rats has just been completed. It lasted for 2 years.
We spent over a year trying to obtain transgenic corn because no GMO manufacturers were willing to provide them. This is because Monsanto requires contracts to be signed stipulating that the seeds must not be used for testing. We wanted our study to be independent.
Every rat was dissected to identify the way each diet, GMO, GMO and Roundup on its own, had acted on the metabolism of each animal, focusing on the development rate of the tumors that only start to manifest themselves after the initial 3-month period.
Each step up represents a large tumor, which can measure 17 millimeters by 17 millimeters. 94% of them take effect in the mammary glands, which would equate to breast cancer in a woman. We are faced with renal tumors for the males. Some males also suffer from mammary tumors.
One could have thought that the main cause of death was coming from the pesticide added to the corn. But what the study highlighted, and this for the first time ever, is the fact that the transgenesis itself could have killed the rats. What this means is that just by interfering with the genome of the plant in order to modify it, we are faced with repercussions that no one could have anticipated. This is enough to make us reconsider all the scientific precepts that led to the creation of GMOs.
We realized that GMOs without any Roundup residue were responsible for an increase in the death rate of females and of some males. This is the GMO that is being eaten by the Americans, but also the GMO that has been approved for importation by European agencies, and that contaminates our food.
This hoax, Kiba Alagora Sibakora Mantia, is going to receive opposition like never before. Manteke Baraguske Prahondegles. Opposition from the heavenlies, opposition from the earth. It will receive opposition like they never thought possible. Mengila Brakdosa Parit.
And indeed, more and more people are speaking up against this evil agenda.
2 million people in 436 cities in 52 countries. Their protest 100% focused on genetically modified organisms, or GMOs.
Say no to GMOs! Hell no, GMOs! Hundreds of people in Toronto joined an international chorus of voices today against the production of genetically modified crops and the company that produces them.
Just say no!
And we, the saints around the world, will continue to pray, and we won't stop until the will of God is established upon the earth. For the earth is the Lord's and his fullness thereof.
The momentum is increasing as the WordFest 6 train continues to accelerate. Below are 5 important ways to participate. Register. Registration is free. Publicize and participate. Get at least 5 others to register and participate with you daily. Testify. Click on the Share Your Testimony button and upload your testimony of the impact of Pastor Chris' message in your life. Sponsor a PCDL message translation. Sponsor a language translation. Join us to make 1,000 PCDL messages available in the top 200 languages of the world. Organize outreaches. Host a daily study outreach and organize 1 PCDL solutions outreach. Remember to share your insights and inspirations from today's message and documentary on King's Chat using the hashtags #WordFest6, #WordFest2024, #Solutions Everywhere and #Your Zone or Ministry Center, and get ready for more tomorrow.